do a live exercise with Guy.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so this is streaming to you Facebook. Oh, well, there you go.
We are live streaming then.
Everywhere now. So
Right.
We're rolling. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, we're about to embark on tonight's exercise, and what we're going to do for this one is positive negative relationships. It sounds boring, but it's about how you use darks and lights in a tattoo in such a way to make your shapes distinct and clear, easily readable. And we chose butterflies because you can get kind of abstract with those. You could go large or small. You can overlap them. You can get atmospheric with them. You can have little clusters of them. There's a lot of opportunities to use them just as a graphic element. And the way we normally do these exercises is we'll start by doing 4 quick thumbnails, by quick 5 minutes. And if you're drawing digitally, you want to shrink down so you're drawing small, so you don't get carried away with trying to make a clean line drawing in the thumbnail stage. So you're just roughing in your shapes, figuring out your basic composition, sizes and positions. And then from there, that's when anybody wants to join the Zoom call can. And we kind of look at everybody's thumbnails and figure out which ones seem to be the most promising. And we'll spend the remaining part of the session fleshing that one out. If you're drawing analog, you can either take your favorite thumbnail sketch and then redraw it larger when you decide which one you like, or if you have a scanner and printer handy, you can scan it, blow it up, print it bigger, slap tracing paper over it. That might save you some time if you have a thumbnail sketch that you particularly like. But anyway, digital or analog or any combination of the two is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and flip around, show you the way I've got my iPad set up before I get started here. All right, so I've got my references off to the left and got the template for the chest visible. I'm going to be creating, new layers to draw on. So I'm not drawing on the actual chest layer, but, often when I'm designing tattoos for clients, I'll ask them to send me a photo of their body part if they can't come in and have me actually shoot one, because that gives you I find that I'll design differently for different shaped people, and something as simple as, the angle of the collarbones, or, how distinct the bumps on the tops of the shoulders are, could really, cause you to draw it a little bit differently. So anyway, what time have we got? Sandy, do you know what time it is right now?
I thought I was muted. We're 7 minutes after.
Okay, 7 minutes after. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and call it 10 after, and that'll give us a little bit more time on our first one. So our first drawing will go till quarter after. So we're gonna do 4 thumbnails, 5 minutes each. And like I said, I've got my I've got a layer, 4 layers that I've set up for the purpose. And the first one I'm going to do is going to be the most obvious, because usually that's what I will do. I'll start with the most obvious. And because this is the center of the chest, you got the question of symmetry or asymmetry. And it's very obvious to go really symmetrical. And so I'm going to do that for this first thumbnail. Although I'm going to then have some smaller butterflies kind of under and overlapping the big one that are not symmetrical, just for variety and to make the design a little bit more dynamic. Looking at these references, but of course, redrawing in my own hand. That's another thing about the way we do our exercises. I discourage tracing, not in your everyday tattoo practice, but while we're getting together to draw, we are trying to push ourselves. So, yeah, tracing is, there's a time and a place for it. So now I'm figuring out a couple of the outliers here. And, you can use as much or as little of the chest as you want. This client has specified something that's kind of centered, in the middle of the chest. But you can leave plenty of blank skin if you want. And to get the wing positions right, you might find yourself wanting to look at other references besides the ones that we've included. I don't have my timer set up, so I'm not going to be able to know when it is 1/4 after.
I'm here for you.
Thank you. Okay, and so another thing I'll do if I'm a little ahead of the game with my thumbnails is I'll start shading. So here's the idea that positive negative relationships, we've got these butterfly shapes. Are we using dark and light? And in order to have a light colored butterfly in front of a dark background, you need to invoke some sort of background shading. And so I'm going to explore some combinations of, you know, what I refer to as a dynamic pos-neg relationship, where where part of the design, part of the shape is dark on a light background, positive on negative. Part of the design kind of flips and it ends up light on a dark background. And if you start looking closely at the world around you, you'll start seeing that kind of thing happening everywhere. So in some ways, it's sort of an imitation of how we really see. There's one of the chapters in Reinventing where I talk about this Salvador Dali painting, where there's a figure in the foreground and there's this water, you know, like an ocean in the background. And there's places where the water is about to disappear behind the figure. And if it's a darker part of the figure, like an underside of an arm, or there's a shadow, the water in the background gets a little bit lighter before it disappears behind it. If it's a light, like upper side of the arm, the water gets a little darker before it disappears behind it in order to reinforce that edge. That's kind of the basic idea behind a dynamic pos-neg relationship. Are we at 1/4 yet?
We are not quite. We got 4 minutes actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry,
Well,
3 minutes.
Maybe this one is, I've actually come up with a subject matter that's not too ridiculously hard. Yeah, sometimes they get challenging. Not that this one isn't, but I'm going to go ahead and start my second one because there's nothing wrong with being slightly ahead of the game. So we do 4. And the reason for that is I believe it's important to not just settle for your first drawing. You know, when you're coming up with tattoo designs, something for a client, and you do a sketch and it's pretty good. And you're like, okay, so now I am going to start my cleaned up version of this. And you end up doing a pretty nice drawing, right? But the thing is what if that first sketch were followed by 2 or 3 more? You really think that that first sketch would still be your best one, your best idea? It might be, but you're not going to know that until you do a couple more. And, you know, another thing that sometimes happens there, if the first sketch is a good enough design, you end up doing 2, 3 more that are just variations of the first one. But this time you're just moving things around a little bit, making this a little larger, this a little smaller, changing that arc a little bit, adding another branch over here. And then as a result, you're able to kind of fine tune it at the thumbnail sketch phase. So by the time you actually start to do the full size rendering of it, you've already worked out the most essential kinks in it.
We've got some people on the Facebook chatting. We've got Zacchaeus is saying it's so funny. I was about to watch yours and Andre's masterclass on waves video again. And then he saw this was happening. So that's cool.
Yeah, you know, Andre was so helpful. You know, I've totally, as a result of, you know, we did 2 of those with him, and yeah, completely I was always kind of never felt that great about my waves. It just felt like I never quite got the formula. So needed somebody to be able to walk me through it. I'm a big fan of Greg Irons. Irons was a San Francisco tattooer back in the 80s. He died in 1986. And he was kind of a pioneer. He was a psychedelic comic artist as well as a tattooer. But his wave style I thought was interesting because it definitely was very much traditional Japanese in some ways, but it wasn't. It was also more. They didn't have fractals back then. They didn't know how to program computers to do that. But there was a sense of that. There was a sense of more natural turbulence in it than what you're used to seeing in simple Japanese waves. And so, that was my thing for a long time, was just kind of stole from Greg Irons and did Iron style waves. And they weren't bad, but they certainly, in some ways, I was kind of hiding my lack of understanding, because you could make the Iron style waves look kind of interesting, without really having the very best flow of the actual hooks and whatnot. So grateful for Andre.
We've also got Dan is here, and he just has kind of like a question. He has not started tattooing yet, but he's kind of looking into it. He's saying, I'm about to be 44. I've been an artist selling commissions for years. How realistic is it to seek out an apprenticeship for tattooing?
I don't know why age should have anything to do with it. What is going to be important is your portfolio and your attitude more than anything. Okay, so if I were a shop owner looking to apprentice somebody, and of course, taking on an apprentice is kind of a big thing. You're talking about a time commitment. Sandy, are we at time to switch yet?
We just turned to it.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna change drawings here. You're talking about 6 months to 2 years with an apprentice, and so the attitude is going to be super important, and not just a positive attitude, but this sense of, yeah, I'm excited to learn. I know that I have a lot to learn, and I'm wide open. I think that they're going to want to know that you have the free time, so they're going to ask you, are you a dad? Do you have enough free time? Are your kids grown yet? They might ask you things like that, because there's a lot of time that's going to go into it. But if I had somebody come into my shop and I was looking for an apprentice, and I knew that they had the time that they were going to put into it, I think in some ways I would almost rather hire somebody a little older, maybe because I am a little older, and at this point, I wouldn't want to have to deal with any drama, but not that hiring an older person is a guarantee of that, but there's going to be a maturity, if you can convince them that you are, going to be a good person to have around to just help run the shop, and that you've got experience. But yeah, the portfolio, you're going to need to show them that even if you don't have a ton of drawing experience, that you're ready to put in the time and effort, and you're going to need to show some kind of like the level that you're at right now. And I mean, if you have experience in the art world, selling commissions or whatever, presumably you have some sense of design. So that's going to be an important part of it. Just putting together a nice looking portfolio. Doesn't have to be big. In fact, it's better if it's not. That gives them a sense of what your current level of abilities are. And then, they can imagine, you being able to actually put the effort in. I don't know. Hopefully that helped answer the question. Um, a lot of it is just you're gonna need to convince them that you are ready to do the work.
Right on. There's a little bit of delay for the people on, I think, Facebook. So if they're going to reply, they might take a little bit.
Yeah.
And we got about 1 more minute on that.
Okay. Well, I wasted all my time. Weird symmetrical thing. I'm going to try one more time.
Yeah, sometimes the symmetrical things like makes it way easier, and then sometimes it's just kind of strange.
Yeah, just depends on what you're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I might have to spend a couple extra minutes on this one. Yeah, and so far I haven't really experimented with any other elements. Yeah, I'm gonna do a minute or two of smoky rendering in here. I think the idea of a pair of butterflies symmetrical like this is not a terrible idea, but I think my basic execution here is not good. So maybe I shouldn't waste any more time on it. Okay, next one. I might try a different approach to the symmetrical thing. And then, yeah, after this fourth thumbnail, then we can kind of all compare notes. Take a minute to look at each other's thumbnails and take it from there. And, I'm trying not to get lost in composition because I really want to just make a nice dark and light pattern. That's really the objective here. When I'm thinking about my tattoo designs, I'm thinking about how those dark and light shapes are going to look from a distance. You don't want there to be a nice strong alternation of dark light. You sometimes see tattoos where there's like the same amount of shading in every shape. And even if each shape in the piece, each detail appears to be nicely shaded, the overall look of it might just look sort of fuzzy because you don't have any distinctly dark shapes and distinctly light shapes. And so once you start getting in the habit of thinking, sort of intentionally about your positive negative relationships, you start asking yourself, okay, is this going to be light in front of a dark background or vice versa? And then, you start doing what you need to adjust your foreground and background in order to be able to pull that off. Yeah, I just have a hard time with working with the symmetry filter and being quick. I think
Yeah, definitely takes some getting used to.
I might end up having to stick with my first one just because it is the most obvious one. And I don't know that the other ones are any better, but I am gonna, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take some time to clean it up and make it more interesting. Sometimes I'll go back to the first one, but I have to prove to myself that I've got a good reason to. Okay, so are we there yet? We're the end of our 20 minutes of thumbnails.
Yes, yeah, that would be in like 1 minute. So
Okay, so anyone that wants to hop on the Zoom call, please do. Here's the one thing I want to say is if, for example, you're watching this through another device and you get on Zoom, make sure you, on the other device, you mute the sound, or else you might get weird echoes and that kind of thing. And it's kind of funny, right as I say that, daughter shows up and starts
Earlier today, my dad farted so loudly.
Okay.
It was like a really wet fart too. You want me to imitate it?
She hasn't actually been around her dad today.
Oh,
so.
I have too, Dad.
Okay. This is a live broadcast at an event. Yes, there's actually
finally.
people there. Yes.
Well, I'm gonna go and annoy Dawn then.
Okay. Try to dial it down a little bit. Okay. Whew. Okay. Where were we at? Yeah, we're talking about avoiding the Zoom echo. So you make sure you only have the sound enabled on one device, because if you have it enabled on two devices, you start getting these weird feedback sounds. And so if you get on and you start hearing that happen, go ahead and just mute the mic until you've got the sound on the other thing turned off. And then you shouldn't have any problems.
Someone in the YouTube is saying, gotta love kids, man.
Oh, yeah. Holy cow.
You're welcome to join us on the Zoom. The right above your comment should be the link. I'll put it up again just and have it right below there. Oops, sorry, that's the YouTube channel. I'll get that link for you. We'd love to have you on here. There we go.
Sandy, you got any?
I have one so far.
Right,
Been doing a little bit of this stuff, but I did can get my little other camera set up, and I've just started like the what do you call it? Symmetrical one. I thought that might be easy, and I kind of like it. I was thinking about like doing something else with it though, because right now. And I'm going to switch and spotlight. Oops.
Hey,
As far as I got.
I think I'm going to have to leave and call back. I'm sorry because we've lost our sound.
Oh.
I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries. Ooh. There we go. All right, sorry, technical difficulties here. But yeah, if anybody's in there right now, Andre, oh, wonderful, Andre and the sixth Yonko Gavon. Oh, we'd love to have you in the Zoom, even if you're not drawing with us. We'd love to have you on just to chat and hear from you, because you're all saying such nice things. So yeah, if anybody's having any issues with getting the Zoom link, just kind of put it in the comments. We just got another nice message from Andrade on YouTube, and he's saying, first of all, congratulations on such a masterful career, and thank you for keeping on to giving out to the industry. My question is refined posture, any advice for a long career? Okay. For like, I guess, for posture wise.
Okay, well, yeah, gosh, the way you sit does make a big difference. And it's funny because Don and I have been talking about this a lot. I've got my friend Don McDonald here, who he and I have been collaborating together for 28 years or something like that. And yeah, he's going on 30 years. I'm going on 34, I think, in October. And I do not have chronic back problems. And I think I don't want to say that there's any magic bullet to that, but I think it's really important to listen to your back, to be willing to listen, because I think there's just this terrible habit that we tattooers have. They're like, oh, tough it out, don't be a puss, and yet your back is saying, this is a bad idea. You really shouldn't be in that position. Please don't be in that position. And you're like, shut up, sissy. And next thing you know, you're paying for it. And it can be pretty bad. So that's one of those things, is to just listen, just pay attention. When you can tell that you're in a bad position, a lot of the time it's about taking a minute and reworking your setup. Your client might need to be a little higher, a little lower, change the armrest, change your own position, move the light, move stuff around. And if you frequently have issues like this, then you might need a completely different setup. You might want to explore other chairs and things like that. The chair that you sit in, the chair that your client sits in, these can be very crucial in terms of how comfortable you are. And, that, of course, is going to reflect on your career length. Breaks are important. I take about a 45-minute break every 2.5, 3 hours. And I also don't work more than about a 6 to 7 hour day, usually. Not this week, but, rules are meant to be broken. I think that eating well and not waiting until after work and eating a gigantic meal and going into a food coma, that's not good. So take good, decent meal breaks. Never be in too much of a hurry, because you'll pay for it later. Get your eyes checked. As you get older, they will start to, strain more. Wrists, you should stop and stretch them. I've got some wrist stretches that I show in Reinventing. But a lot of it is just simply stretching this way and then this way. So you've got your hand all the way open, you're opening up your inner tendons, and then you got your hand all the way closed and you're pulling your outer tendons. Gently, you never want to do any of this stuff suddenly or in a way that hurts or could really damage yourself, but gently stretching. Again, no magic bullet. A lot of it is just about listening to your body and taking those extra minutes, improving your setup. Try new machines if your hands and wrists hurt. I'm using a Cheyenne pen. Love it. I don't even know how they could improve it. It's cordless. I don't think I could ever use a corded machine again, no matter how great it was. I don't know if I could ever go back. Try different grips, different, anything that can help you to take strain off, and most importantly, listen to your body. I sound like a broken record, but I think that is where a lot of people go wrong, is they ask too much of their bodies, and they think that they're having a great work ethic by doing that. It's like showing up at work sick and thinking you've got a great work ethic. No, that's not how that works. Great work ethic is to not overdo it. Pace yourself so that you can keep it up longer and not, burn out early. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, burnout. How do you avoid burnout? Mainly, you just don't push that hard. You should know when you're feeling, the first inklings of it, and that is when it's time to plan a vacation or alter your hours. Have summer hours where you have an extra day off a week or something. You have to love tattooing. I mean, you don't have to, but what a shame not, to have one of the greatest careers on earth, and to not love it, that would be such a shame.
Absolutely.
If you don't burn yourself out, you can love it your whole life. At least I've not found it to be hard to do that.
Same. I'm only been doing it for half of the time, but I still would definitely agree with that. Kyle said that we've got Conan and Sarah are in the Hell City situation. We've got Andre trying to download Zoom. So let me know in the comments there, Andre, if you're having any issues.
Hey, Kaya, stop that, please.
I can.
No, that was on purpose. No, that was, you had to aim through a hole in the bushes to get me. That was. Hey, Kaya, please, my iPad is getting wet. Oh my God.
Oh no.
So mortifying. You know, I mean, every time I try to do anything, she disrupts it and does it publicly. It's great. Super embarrassing.
Not nice, not kind there, Kaya. Yes, Andre. Oh, you said much appreciated. Excuse. Oh, no worries about your typos there, Andre. Yeah, if you have any issues with downloading it or coming onto it, you can just let me know in these comments, and I can definitely help you out with that. But Kyle, if you can hear us right now, we'd love to see Sarah and Conan's progress if they're willing to share it.
Yeah, we'd love to show examples of some of the other artists' work.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll go up first and show my stuff.
Yeah, let's check it.
So, oh, there you go. Now your video started. There we go. All right, so a little bit blurry. Oh, there we go. Nice.
Okay, so the first thing that occurs to me is the bottom edge of the butterfly. I'm wondering why you've got a dark line, then a gap, and then a dark background. What purpose that gap is serving? Why you wouldn't want to just come right up underneath it with that dark shading? You know, just that way the gradient of the background can carry all the way through. You know, a glow like that can work really well when it's in the right places, like along the lighter edge. It makes sense to have that glow where the butterfly is silhouetted, you know, where the dark tops of the wings, having a glow behind that totally works because it just amplifies it. But then to have it around the bottom edge of the wing, I don't know if like maybe if the glow were to go to a dark color, like a deep red, then the bottom edge of the wing would go back to having a strong neg-on pause kind of relationship. Just a thought. I like that.
There, Kyle, just in case you're replying, you are muted.
Yeah, if you've been trying to talk, I was actually going to ask you if you were muted.
He's running back.
But yeah, this is a pause neg exercise. So really look at ways to strengthen your dark and light relationships as our objective tonight.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Now,
Okay, there we go.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I definitely see what you were talking about there on the bottom part. That was definitely could fix that a bit.
I think that, you know, there's this thing that a lot of tattooers do, that the gap, you know, the tattoo gap. And it's just something you see in the way that tattoos are shaded. And I think that people are afraid to bring shading right up against the edge sometimes. And yet sometimes that is the most effective way of doing something. So don't be afraid of trying that.
Okay, yeah. You guys want to share anything?
Hey, Kaya, stop playing with the hose. You have to go back to the house. You're being really disruptive. You're embarrassing me. Please leave. At other people's expense.
Yeah,
you know, every single one of these are being recorded for all posterity. And they'll say, oh, that was Kaya's brat phase. Before the phase.
Yes, this may haunt. This may haunt
Guy,
her.
that's the nature of
And they're
children, right?
teenagers.
Guy, that's their job, is to make us feel silly. But among peers, you're not silly. And it's quite amazing that you care at all to make children as good at tattooing as you are. Just that.
Yeah.
About thanks for breeding and making good humans, because you guys are awesome parents. I know that to be true.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. We try. Holy shit, is it hard though?
Are you guys able to share some stuff over there? We'd love to see it.
They're still working. They're not
Brandon?
ready to share yet.
All right, no worries. Awesome.
And I accidentally left my symmetry on when I started drawing butterflies. And maybe what I'll do is I'll keep these, and then I will start doing some random ones. In fact, I'm just going to make a layer for my random ones.
I'm trying to get something done down a little bit so I can kind of show where I would be putting paws and eggs. But I'm trying to make an asymmetrical one as well. I like the idea of asymmetrical. But, yeah. Some of these butterflies, I don't know if they're actually real. Their colors are just like unbelievable.
Yeah, John Clue has done a bunch of tattoos where he's done scattered moths. And I always thought that was kind of a cool look.
Mm. Scattered moths. Sounds like a song or something.
Of course, moths always have that more like dingy vibe to them, you know. For what reason?
And fluffy.
Fluffy and dingy.
Funny combo.
Unless you're a giant silkworm moth, of course. We had a polyphemus moth hatch in our house recently, and
Oh,
I
wow.
guess daughter must have brought a cocoon in.
Oh,
His wings were still drying. I got it outside, and really, such an impressive creature. This is, it's like a monarch plus a couple centimeters. Just big, big
Wow.
ice. Love the ice pots. I'm all about those.
yeah. So cool. And that's
Well,
nice that you got him out with his wings all intact and everything.
Oh, I
I'm sure
heard
you
a bunch of, this monarch or this big moth, and it was in a classroom, and the teacher didn't know what to do. And it's like, oh, bug. So she put it under a cup.
Oh,
So it couldn't open its wings up, and its wings dried without it being able to open them. And yeah,
oh, that's awful.
humans.
Yeah. Like, how was that your first inclination?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a bug. It could,
Yeah, I just
bug you.
saw something on the National Geographic's Instagram. It was like this guy's trying to take photos of something else entirely, and he was just covered in these giant katydids. And it looked definitely like they were, when bugs are like heavy enough to like weigh something.
Yeah.
A little much.
Right. Yeah. You have to really enjoy insects for that to be
Yeah.
a cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. As a kid, I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Because they're just katydids.
Yeah, I think
They're
the only time he was mostly bothered was when it went up his nose, and he was like, "Oh, come on, that's too much."
That's crossing personal space boundaries.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, I could share like I've just gotten a super rough little
Okay,
couple
yeah.
things, and then maybe you can let me know some feedback on which would have more flow. Kind of, I feel like this is going to have more flow. I just want to add a little bit.
Yeah. So one big one on one side and balance it out with two smaller ones on the other side.
Yeah,
Okay.
and maybe some like smoky background stuff. The only other one that I had gotten done was like a very large, taking up the whole thing.
Right. And again, yes, kind of like what I'm doing, but yeah, nothing wrong with that approach either.
Yeah. But I kind of feel like I'm drawn more to this sort of thing. Anything that would be like kind of recommended for making sure that I'm
Okay,
really-
here's the thoughts. Okay, first of all, if you're actually going to tattoo this, I'd just say make sure that you've got good communication with your client about the collar line, because that's about chest tattoos that I think is not discussed enough. You ask the person to stand in the mirror. If you're having a consultation in person, you take a Sharpie and you make a dotted line and say, what about that?
Yeah.
And you might even ask them, hey, where's some of your favorite outfits or something that you think is typical for what you would wear?
Mhm.
And of course, fashions change and everything, but it at least gives you a sense of their comfort level. You know, like they like to show a lot of chest, or they usually have a high collar in their work clothes or whatever. And you know, I think it's just one of those things that's easy to just not think about much, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to make the design look good, so wherever it ends is where it ends. But in fact, somebody might have a total anxiety attack if they decide that it goes up too high and none of their clothes work anymore. They might actually have a really hard time.
Like if their t-shirt went like this and then all of a sudden they've got these things.
Right.
You know,
You want to make sure that they're cool with that. And they might be like, yeah, man, I can't wait to have part of it showing, you know?
Yeah.
Or they might be like, oh yeah, I totally get fired. And then, you know, and so, yeah, this has to be, you know, discreet. Or they might just have a taste of, yeah, I love how it sits on the top of the collar, or I really like it when it's up near the neck, or collar line is a good thing to discuss because it's actually like an artistic element of the piece.
absolutely. And then for the like trying to consider the thing of the positive negatives for this, would you recommend like just kind of mostly going really light with the background and then having them as mostly the dark areas, or would you kind of like go a little darker?
There's no right answer. There's no right answer for that. One thing that you could consider is, I mean, that it drifting across like that is nice, but since the butterflies are laid out in an asymmetrical format, maybe try a more centrally balanced wind, like it's flowing up the center and then outward, you know? So it's like a curving Y coming up the middle of the chest and then flowing.
Yes.
So that then you've got balance in the flow of background where, you know, the foreground is, you know, got more random placed elements. And so that sometimes can be enough to tie something together and give it the balance it needs.
That really makes sense.
Then you want to ask yourself, are there any parts of that background that would look good, like dark behind the butterfly, kind of the way that, you know, I have with my background here. You can see, you know, the upper part of this gray shading is really soft. So when it goes behind the dark upper edge, it just kind of disappears and makes for a nice pause on neg situation. But then I kind of fade the butterfly down to being white towards the bottom there. And because of that, the background behind that goes a little darker. And so you've got a flip in the relationship. So yeah, if you've got any parts of your background you want to go a little darker with and lift the butterfly up that way, that, you know, that's just an example of, you know, what I was hoping to see a little bit here is creative uses of alternating positive negative relationships through the piece. And so anybody out there that's drawing right now, If you like your line drawing, your basic layout, now look at it and ask, are there ways that you can get clever with your dark and light relationships? For example, your background could be a gradient, starts dark at the top and fades to light at the bottom. And let's say you've got a large butterfly in the foreground of that, and you just do the opposite gradient in the butterfly and, flowing in the other direction. And immediately they're going to separate from each other. Then to take that a step further, isolate all your true blacks in either your foreground or your background. I think in this case, probably putting your true blacks in the butterfly and going nice and strong with it. And then keeping the background 60% or lighter. So you've got the switch in gradient, but then you've also got a difference in overall value. You've got a couple of different things to separate your foreground and background and make them distinct.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I kind of like the happy accident of ending up with these the side butterflies that are symmetrical, because then, the asymmetrical ones and the little bit of randomness going on with the background ends up still looking nice and balanced. Pretty happy with that. I'm not bothering with color tonight. But yeah, one of the things we often do is anybody that wants to go farther with their drawing on our Monday night exercises is welcome to, and then we just make sure that they've got them posted before the next time the group gets together, and we go through all the extra credit from the previous week. And man, there have been some very impressive drawings. People really put their effort behind.
Absolutely. Yes, anybody that missed the introduction, these are things that we do every Monday, and there's two different ways that you can kind of join those. You can either join us with the evolution course, which is 3 trimesters over the year, where the next one's opening up June 1st, and that'll be open for 2 weeks before we're starting the next trimester together. And then and that's a really, really cool way to be learning the Reinventing the Tattoo content. But it does also take a little bit of extra time. So if you don't have that extra time, but you really like the idea of joining these Monday night exercises, then you can just join the Monday night exercises and you subscribe to that monthly as well. And then you get to join us every week on Monday and get critiqued every week. And you can see everybody that comes to those regularly has been improving big time. It's really quite noticeable, really cool to see.
So yeah, those are a couple of our courses. Yeah, I don't want to sound too much like a sales guy here, but we've been working on Reinventing the Tattoo for 25 years, but recently we've completely revamped it and we're doing weekly updates on it. And so like recently we did a new black and gray chapter, got a bunch of guest artists involved. Just went over the cover up chapter, added some new material to that. Did a new special effects chapter, which was not in any of the old material, just a totally new one. A lot of new material. And so every week, subscribers get a drop. They get a couple of chapters. They'll get typically some video material, possibly a full-length seminar or a mini seminar. They'll get a chapter exercise, which is, a non-live version of this, where I'll pose a challenge and, you can do it and post it. And those, once a month, we get together and do a quick review session, lightning critique of people's chapter exercises. So I really try to give feedback whenever I can. And then there's a tattoo challenge and our Monday night exercise. So lots of things that roll in every week. So if you have enough extra time that you can join us every Monday or most Mondays and put a couple hours, a couple of days into reading the new material. Oh, there's a quiz too, so that we can give you a certificate at the end of the whole thing. It's a 48-week course. It's a time commitment. If you like the idea of all that material, but you're not sure about the 48 weeks, we also just the material is available by itself too. But the 48-week course is by far the most intensive learning experience that I've ever offered. All right, how are we doing on time here?
We are about almost an hour in. So,
Okay.
yeah. Kyle, are any of the folks on your end interested in sharing yet? We'd definitely love to see them.
Hear me? Yeah. No, not yet.
Okay.
All right, well, since I can't give comments on anyone's, I just want to remind you that, and I do this during our Monday night exercises too. I'll make a point of, like I'm the client, and this is my request. You know, I'm going to remind you, this is a positive exercise. You're looking for ways of creating a very strong dark light relationship. You know, I'm zooming out from mine right now, and I'm looking at it from a distance, and I'm seeing that I think that the bottom parts of this butterfly and of these, the negative parts of them need a little bit more strength behind them. So I'm going to deepen that. I think I might darken the background and start using some white highlights in it too. It's starting to come together.
Looking awesome.
Another thing about positive negative relationships is they are the, you know, no matter how good they are, they're going to be the most effective when you're using big shapes. That's another thing that I often harass reinventing students about is I always recommend not making them as big as possible, because obviously there's going to be such a thing as too big, something that just is so large it doesn't fit a body part anymore or makes an awkward fit. But by starting out with larger shapes, you're just going to have more advantage in having a clearer looking design. It's not going to be as busy, you know, having a simpler basic structure is just going to make it more readable. You don't want your viewer to struggle to make out what's going on. That's the opposite of what we want. But yeah, so I'm making sure to go nice and dark with the butterfly, but I'm still limiting how dark I go with the background. But now I'm going darker with that background because I didn't feel like things were cohesive enough. So finding that happy medium. And I think that what I'm going to do next is go gray with my background, which often I'll just draw with a gray background because for starters, it makes it easier to see things on Zoom. But then that also allows you to come in with white highlights in a few key places. So I'm going to do that. Of course, now some of the grays I used in that foreground layer are too light. That's okay. We've got I'll mess with my curves and fix that.
How's your life feeling, Guy?
Oh, it's never been an issue. Nice and easy. Except today, it was a super windy day, and we had a little tree fall down across our driveway, and I'm just kind of walking through the yard doing stuff. Oh, a fallen tree. I better get that before Michelle gets home. So just run into it, and I'm walking around the door thinking, yeah, no, I can do this, no problem. And I ended up accidentally poking the fresh tattoo with a stick. It could have been worse.
Yes.
But
oh, yes.
It's exactly the kind of thing I would tell people not to do.
Yeah. yes. Yeah, I was just trying to do some, we're creating like a room in our outbuilding. And so we were doing some building today, and I definitely, my arm is feeling anytime I let it go down, like directly straight down, it just, all the blood rushes to it. And it's still a little bit, I guess, bruised. The skin's a little bruised from swelling up so much. And so I was just like moving so slow for some of the little parts that I would usually be doing so fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you shouldn't be doing anything with tools this week, but
yeah, I know. I was like, oh, that was poor planning, but we got to do something.
I just, I'll always remember this time that I was at a convention and my buddy Dave Waugh was there, and he had a little free time. I was like, oh, dude, I've always wanted a Dave Waugh piece. And so I didn't have a lot of skin left. And so he ended up doing it on my ankle. Fun, right? But, it turned out great. And no, this wasn't at a convention. He was in Chicago at the time, because then I got on my bicycle and I headed home with this saran wrap over my ankle. And it's about a 5-mile ride. And I got almost home, and I'm thinking, man, what a gorgeous night. I probably took 2 hours before I finally told myself, you're being an idiot. Tattoo. And yeah, it just pruned up really bad and ended up being a much longer deal than it should have been. And it probably cost it a little bit of its brightness.
Oh no. Such a beautiful night for a bike, though.
Oh, the moral of the story is, don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
Who would ever listen to that?
Yeah, the symmetrical background, I went with that, and it's looking a lot more.
Let's check it out.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it kind of evens things. It makes it look like more of a chest piece kind of situation without also being all symmetrical. So I like that.
It ties it together nicely.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of darkening all of them. And then I was going to see if I'd need to do much more darkening on the background or add any more little silhouettes or something.
I guess the question is, do you want to have anything light in front of any part of that background? Like, for example, the part of the big butterfly's wings that attach to its body, right?
Yeah.
That's a fairly light area. If you have enough dark background behind that, that'll help that pop.
Totally. Yeah. And if I had like maybe a little tiny white butterfly over here or something in this dark area that's otherwise a lot of smoke.
Yeah, I think that actually is a great idea, because it's not only is it a lot of smoke, but it's having the 3 silhouetted butterflies opposite the one big one, I think it's just a nice poke.
Yeah, and then it has some follow through of like light color over here, whereas so far not so much. Excellent.
All right, Kai, you want to show us where you're at?
Or anybody on that end?
Yeah, I'll show up.
Awesome. You you guys have to do a little walk to get there.
See if I can get it. There we go. So I added some color for fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So now I would say just go a little bit lighter, the background where it goes behind the dark top edge of the butterfly.
Oh, okay, right.
That makes sense. So basically just to emphasize that edge. I mean, that's the important shape in the tattoo. So you don't want any parts of that silhouette of the butterfly to get too similar in value to the background, because it's just not as easy to clearly read it.
Right. Can I get your thoughts on the color scheme as well? I thought it was kind
Well, I think that there's nothing wrong with the basic color scheme, but I think the butterfly definitely would need some kind of a pattern in it. And usually when you create a pattern, it's nice to work a couple of spots of contrasting color into it. Often people go a little bit duller with their background colors, so maybe some of those greens you could, one way you can do it is duplicate that layer. And then with the top layer of it, just dull the greens, go to hue saturation and just knock it down noticeably. So it's more of a gray green, but then you've got the bright green layer underneath that. So the gray green layer, come in with an eraser and just gently carve out places that you want to reveal the bright. You know what I'm saying? It's a way of basically you create a dull version of the layer and you use an eraser to reveal the bright version of the layer in key places. Or you can do it vice versa. If you only want to mute parts of it, you have the top layer be the bright one and use the eraser to reveal little bits of the duller version of it. But anyway, that's an old Photoshop trick for creating just a slightly shifted or different, slightly darker, slightly warmer, slightly different color version of a layer. And then using the eraser to very carefully and just small percentages at a time reveal that.
Kind of reminds me of a game that we used to have on when there was like first having the computers at school, where you would the whole game was just there was a pixely line drawing of something like a person or an animal, and then you would erase it, and as you were erasing it, another thing showed up underneath it, and you kind of tried to guess it before the whole thing above it was erased. I've told people that was a game, and they're all like, "That's a game?" I was like, "Hey, man, we had just gotten computers. It was a game."
Yeah. Well, hey, if it activates, makes you think, makes you do something, and you want to keep doing it, then I guess it's a game. If it's a drug way, then it's not.
Yeah. Sorry, Kyle. I don't know if you were wanting to give any. I got distracted about that there.
No, you're good. Just thank you.
Okay. Coming along nice. Anyone else? Because I think pretty soon we're going to need to wrap this up.
Yeah, so if any of them over there are looking to get comments on it, might be great time for it. Oh, hello. Oh, for some reason I can't hear them, but they're not muted.
Huh.
But I don't know if they're talking to us yet. My friend this year planted a bunch of milkweed and was able to host, I think, something like 20 monarchs to be born on her balcony in Florida.
This spring?
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
I know. So she has some little videos of like them coming out of the cocoon, which was pretty epic.
Because we normally don't get them here until like, mid to late summer.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. What were
Yeah, and
they
they-
doing there so early?
Yeah, they'll see them on the mature milkweed. Interesting.
Interesting indeed. Yeah. I wonder if there's like several batches of them or something. That's so weird.
Well, could be that they reproduce a few times through the year, or throughout the year, as long as milkweed are producing, because
Yeah.
they basically have one plant that they can do their business on, and that would be their window,
Yeah. I see. So then if there's just more milkweed in a certain place, maybe they get a little bit longer of a option.
Right. If the milkweed season is if it peaks at a different time of year.
Yeah, I don't think we'd get any where I am. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that I've seen one in person. I feel like there's some lookalikes that are around here, but
Yeah, Viceroys, there's a few others.
yeah. So
Okay.
Kyle, I'm not sure if you guys could still hear us, but now would be a very good time to have anybody over there, Sarah and Conan, if you wanted to share your
Yeah,
stuff.
see what you guys are doing, and if you're not able to right now, you can always show us on Monday. But yeah, I have to hit it pretty soon.
They
And
leave, so it is currently just me over here.
okay.
No worries. They can definitely bring it on Monday.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that I feel like I got pretty good resolution on mine, and it seems like you guys have found a strong direction for yours. You can see how I've reserved the whites for just the foreground, and since there's no white in the background, it's it causes these butterflies to kind of jump up a little bit. But you can also see, again, that pos-neg thing, keeping the background light enough behind the dark shapes that they can stand forward like that, and then going dark enough behind the light, and adjusting both your foreground and background so that you're not dark on dark or light on light more than absolutely necessary. And of course, we had this asymmetry kind of additional challenge here. It was kind of fun seeing what you guys all did with that. Yeah. Next week, what are we doing next week on Monday? Cover up. We got cover up coming up. Excited about that. I always love doing cover up exercises. So yeah, to all you regular subscribers, see you guys on Monday. Everyone else, have a great Hell City. It's just Friday night, so it's just going to keep picking up from here.
Woo!
All right. Well, thanks, Sandy, for hosting, and yeah, everyone, you have a great time.